When I thought my grandson's legacy was safe, his estranged mother returned to claim it all. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. Started like any other. The sun was shining, birds chirped outside, and I brewed a fresh pot of coffee that filled the air with warmth. But then the doorbell rang, shattering the fragile peace I held onto. My heart skipped. Who could it be? I opened the door and there she stood, Grace, his mother, looking as ghostly as the shadows that seemed to cling to her. She hadn't changed much, her eyes still deep and mysterious, like dark pools hiding secrets. My skin prickled. Beneath her calm exterior, I sensed turmoil, confusion swirling around her like a storm. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated. I never expected her to show up again. Not after all those years. I put on a brave face, but inside I was trembling. My grandson Liam had passed away, leaving behind his dreams and hopes, buried with him. I vowed to protect his legacy, the artwork framed on the walls, his journals stacked on my desk, the dreams he poured into every brushstroke. My chest tightened at the sudden thought of losing it all to her. I motioned her inside, fighting the urge to slam the door. As we sat, the room filled with a heavy silence, thick enough to cut. I studied her, searching for signs of remorse or regret. But what met me was a flicker of determination. Her fingers tapped anxiously against the table, a rhythmic beat that mirrored my racing heart. "I want to see what he left behind," she finally said. Her words hung in the air, suffocating me. Did she think she could simply waltz back into our lives? Just because she was his mother? I felt anger rise like bile in my throat. It wasn't just about the art, it was about Liam. About all the moments I held precious. The laughter, the shared secrets, the love we built together. And then came her confession, the ground beneath me shifting like quicksand. I didn't handle losing him well. I was lost. I thought it best to stay away. I wanted to scoff, to scream that it was too late for apologies, for clarity. Instead I stayed silent, my heart battling a storm of feelings, betrayal and hope swirling in a dizzying whirlwind. "You don't understand," I replied, my voice shaking. "He wanted to create a legacy. The world didn't know him, but I did. This isn't just property. This is his soul." Tears spilled down her cheeks, glistening like shards of glass. "I can't lose him again," she cried. The desperation in her voice pulled at me, twisting and turning the knife deeper into my chest. I felt her pain, but could I trust her? Would she honor his memory or tarnish it with her chaos? The question echoed unanswered, in the hollow spaces between us. The tension in the room crackled like static electricity. I could see it, the weight of despair thickening the air, the unspoken fears hovering like an ominous cloud. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, she dropped the bomb, the words detonating like a bombshell. "I know about the gallery." My pulse raced. My vision blurred for a split second as dread cascaded through me. I could feel my hands tremble, my breath quickening. What had Liam done? What else was hidden? I was at the edge of a cliff, unable to see what lay below. "What do you mean?" I croaked, a lump rising in my throat. But she only smiled, and that smile twisted a knot in my gut. What had I done inviting her back into our lives? And just like that, with her cryptic words hanging in the air, everything I thought was safe began crumbling into chaos. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue against the walls of the small living room that now felt like a battleground. The air was thick with tension, every breath a reminder of the fragile state my heart lingered in. I looked at Grace, her face streaked with tears, and felt an overwhelming swell of emotions wrestling within me, anger still simmering from my earlier outrage, but also an irrational hope that perhaps this was just a misunderstanding. "Tell me what you know," I demanded, forcing my voice to remain steady. I had fought too hard to protect Liam's memory, to safeguard the pieces of his life scattered like breadcrumbs in the wake of his death. Yet here she was, the very person who had run away when he needed her the most, Now ready to dismantle everything I had fought for. With a shaky breath, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper. I found this. It was among his things. Her voice was trembling, each word grappling with the weight of what was unsaid. I shuffled forward, hesitant but curious. Grabbing the paper from her, I unfolded it, my hands shaking slightly. It was an invitation embossed, glittering in the dim light with Liam's unique artwork displayed on the front, alongside the name of an esteemed gallery downtown. It was his dream brought to life, a showcase of everything he held dear. Pieces of his soul would be revealed to the world, transforming whispered fantasies into reality. But alongside exhilaration, a wave of dread washed over me. Had he made arrangements without me? What did this mean for his legacy? Grace noticed my changing expression and leaned closer. He wanted to share his work. I can't believe I missed it. I was so lost in my own darkness I didn't know. Her voice faded as realization hit her, a deep sorrow pooling in her eyes, and that moment, I saw a flicker of the mother Liam might have needed, the one willing to fight for his legacy, even if it meant facing the demons she had run from. Perhaps, just perhaps, this was her way of re-entering his life, of becoming more than just a specter in the shadows. But before I could indulge in that hopeful thought, dread eclipsed my reasoning once more. Why are you here now, Grace? Was it only to claim what was his? My voice trembled with anger, but beneath it, deep down, I wished for something different. I wished for the chance to become a family again. I came to claim what I lost, she replied, her voice firmer now, emboldened by my challenge. Not just art, but the chance to know him through it. I never wanted to lose him in the first place. Torn between anger and empathy, I steeled myself. You can't undo the past. You can't just stroll back in and expect everything to fall in your lap. The rawness of my emotions clawed at my insides, and I watched her reaction closely. I know, she whispered, tears brimming in her eyes. I'm scared. I'm scared of being judged for my mistakes, but I don't want to lose him again. I found strange comfort in her vulnerability, even as the looming trepidation kept my guard up. Could she really be that person for him now? Or was this just a fleeting moment of clarity? We sat in silence, the weight of our shared grief filling the room. Outside, the sky painted itself in shades of lavender and peach, radiating a beauty that seemed to mock the turmoil we were engulfed in. Moments passed, and then, almost instinctively, I reached for her hand, squeezing it gently as I tried to convey a shared understanding, a bridge forged in loss and regret. Suddenly, the door burst open without warning, the wind rustling through our stillness like a ghost. A young man with tousled hair and a frantic expression rushed in, his eyes wide with urgency. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were here. I need to talk to you both. It's about Liam's gallery. The unexpected intrusion jolted us back into reality, and I felt my pulse quicken with apprehension. The name of Liam invoked a raw pang in my chest, and 1,000 questions collided within my mind. What could this stranger possibly know that would affect the fragile connection we had just started to navigate? I found something, he continued, breathless. Something that changes everything. My heart raced and the world around me blurred, as the boy's cryptic words hung heavy in the air, a harbinger of the chaos yet to come. Would this revelation bring us closer to understanding? Or would it tear us apart once more? I tried to catch my breath, the anxiety prickling beneath my skin as I exchanged glances with Grace, her expression mirroring my own disbelief. The tension from moments ago surged anew, transforming confusion into a tempest. Who are you? I managed to ask, my voice steadier than I felt. The young man took a tentative step forward, his hands shaking slightly as if he were bracing himself against a wave of disbelief. My name is Ethan. I was a friend of Liam's. We worked together on the exhibition. He was excited. But there was something he didn't tell anyone, and I need to share it with you. Grace's grip tightened around my hand, the warmth of her palm a stark contrast to the chill invading the room. I motioned for Ethan to continue, my heart beating erratically against the bones of my chest. A part of me wanted to reject this interruption, this new voice demanding to shatter the tenuous bond Grace and I had formed just moments prior. Another part, the desperate part, clung to any hope of learning more about Liam's last wishes. Ethan inhaled deeply, gathering his thoughts like paper whirling in a storm. Liam had a secret he was keeping, he finally said, his voice steadying. There was a piece he was working on, something he left unfinished. He told me it was his true passion, the one thing he felt would truly define him as an artist. But he was terrified to show it to anyone because his voice wavered. Because it was deeply personal. Personal how? Grace whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. Ethan's face fell, the light dimming in his eyes as he met her gaze. It was about his family, about you, Grace. He wanted to express everything, the hurt, the love, the loss. He poured his heart into it, but he never had the courage to finish it. He said if he showed it to you, it could break you both or bind you closer than ever before. I felt my breath catch, a sense of anguish lacing my veins. The memories of Liam, his laughter, his creative fervor, the way he painted the world with color swirled around me like ghosts longing to whisper their truth. Where is this peace? I asked, the intensity of my urgency unraveling the facade of calm I had tried to maintain. Ethan shifted uneasily. That's the problem. He left the sketches with me, but I wasn't sure what to do with them after his voice trailed off, the weight of Liam's death pressing heavily on everyone gathered. I couldn't bring myself to look at them until now. Show us, I said, my resolve hardening. Please. The silence in response was thick with anticipation as Ethan retrieved a worn envelope from his backpack. My heart raced as he handed it to me, the weight of the unknown pressing against my fingertips. My pulse quickened in steady cadence as I opened the envelope, revealing pages of sketch after sketch, ink and graphite tracing the raw intricacies of Liam's soul. As I flipped through the drawings, a vivid tapestry of emotions erupted from the pages, fragments of memories, scattered moments of joy and despair depicted in beautiful strokes. Each page was a window into his heart, an uncensored journey, but then I saw it, an unfinished piece, the final canvas blank save for a solitary gaze that looked back at me. It was a self-portrait, but underneath it lay deep, dark lines that hinted at struggles I had never known. Emotion surged within me as a familiar wave of sorrow threatened to choke my breath. Liam had carried so much with him, and I had never seen this side of him, the pain that he had held like a secret, shielded behind the facade of his brilliance. Why didn't he show this to anyone? Grace's voice trembled, and for the first time, I saw vulnerability emerge from her exterior, cracks forming in a life carved from isolation. Ethan swallowed harshly. He was afraid you would see how broken he felt. He didn't want to burden you anymore. I could feel the anguish swell within me, the unbearable weight of Liam's unseen battles. I set the sketches down, shaking my head, filled with a desperate sense of something ungraspable. He thought he was a burden, I murmured, and we left him, believing that. The revelation hung between us, devastating in its implications. The gulf that had formed between mother and son now echoed in said fears and misunderstanding. It's not too late, Grace whispered fiercely, her resilience sparking anew as she clutched my arm. We have to honor him, finish what he couldn't. We can complete this journey together. Ethan nodded slowly. If you want, I can help. I have other friends he worked with, people who knew how special he was. We can put together something that will show the world who he really was. But as the words left his lips, a cold dread settled over me, a warning I could not shake. Would this voyage into his mind bring us together or tether us further apart? The prospect of unearthed emotions, admissions long buried, twinkled with both hope and dread. Then, before I could even respond, there was a knock at the door, sharp and sudden, slicing our moment in half. My heart skipped as I exchanged glances with Grace and Ethan, uncertainty clouding our shared purpose. What more could possibly complicate this journey into Liam's truth? With a shiver that danced down my spine, I moved cautiously toward the door, unsure of what awaited on the other side, a visitor from the past or a further unraveling of our careful stitches. But as I turned the handle and swung the door open, I could feel the abrupt chill of change descending upon our fragile sanctuary. The door creaked as I pulled it open, revealing a figure silhouetted against the dim hallway light. My breath caught at the sight, my heart dropping as though pulled by an invisible thread. It was Claudia, Liam's mother. Her sudden appearance felt like a tidal wave crashing into the fragile oasis we had unknowingly created, and for a second, the air thickened with uncertainty. She stood there, her eyes wide and shimmering with a combination of apprehension and defiance. I heard you were here, she said, her voice steady but laced with underlying tension. I came to see what you thought you were doing with my son's legacy. Grace stepped forward, her protective instinct instantly flaring. Claudia, we were just. Claudia raised her hand, cutting off Grace's defense. I don't want to hear your excuses. You think you can just take over? You don't even know what he was truly working on. She looked past Grace to me, her expression softening slightly. And you're the one who made him feel like he had to hide. Anger and guilt stirred in equal measure, colliding within me as I absorbed her words. I felt like a thief in my own skin, caught in a reality that was both unyielding and unfair. I opened my mouth to speak, to defend our intentions, but no words came. Instead, the weight of the situation lingered heavily, gnawing at the edges of reason. We're trying to honor him. I finally managed to say, steadiness creeping into my voice. Liam left behind sketches. He wanted to express something personal. We're here to finish what he started. Claudia's expression shifted. A flicker of hurt danced across her face, vulnerability peeking through the veneer of motherly rage. You think I don't want that? You think I didn't care? Her voice cracked and she took a step closer, raw honesty merging with the deep pain she carried. Liam felt alone, I said, my voice almost a whisper now, the truth bare between us. He didn't want to disappoint you. He thought maybe if he shared himself, it would only hurt you more. Claudia's eyes glistened as she tilted her head, battling a tempest of emotions. I never meant for him to feel that way. I didn't know how lost he was. I thought I was protecting him by giving him space. Grace folded her arms across her chest, the tension evident in her posture. He was struggling long before you and Liam became estranged. It wasn't just about you. There were battles he faced, and he fought them alone. Things were shifting in the air. A cautious dance of reconciliation sparked by shared pain. I could sense that Claudia, despite her initial hostility, was willing to open up, at least enough to meet us in this vulnerable space. I dared to hope that maybe together, we could unravel the threads of sorrow that had long loomed over us, but just as the promise of unity seemed possible, she looked down at the envelope still clutched in my hand, the sketches still resting perilously unfinished within. The moment hung taut, the air thick with tension as the tangible embodiment of Liam's legacy lay between us. I deserved to see them, Claudia said quietly, a strange mix of anger and need weaving through her tone. If he poured his heart into this, I want to know what he was feeling. I have the right to understand my son's pain. I exchanged a glance with Grace and Ethan, weighing the gravity of her demand. What could we lose or gain in revealing this part of Liam's world to her? My heart raced as I glanced down at the envelope, and I wondered if sharing these intimate expressions of Liam's sorrow would heal old wounds or reopen a chasm even deeper than before. Are you sure? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Claudia drew a shaky breath, the weight of a years-long argument with herself evident in her eyes. I need to know, she said softly, almost as if she were pleading with herself as much as with us. I thought I was protecting him, but maybe I was only protecting myself. I nodded, feeling the fragile, gossamer thread connecting us as we ventured into this unknown territory together. With trembling fingers, I placed the envelope carefully into Claudia's hands, feeling a shiver traverse the air as she accepted it. Time seemed to halt, the world narrowing to that single moment as she hesitated, caught between the enormity of what she would behold and the memories of the boy whose laughter had once filled the rooms now steeped in silence. Let's see what Liam left for us, I encouraged gently. As she opened the envelope, eager anticipation hung thickly, but my heart warned me of the turbulent emotions we were about to unleash, healing or heartbreak swaying in an uncertain balance. We all held our breath, ready to plunge into the depths of Liam's truth, but the weight of this shared surging moment promised to change us all potentially irrevocably. The first sketch emerged, and as Claudia's eyes roamed over the emotions etched by his hand, I saw her expression flicker, sending my heart racing toward an impending storm. Perhaps it was too late for any of us to turn back. Would what we uncovered bind us closer or tear apart the fragile stitches we had begun to sew? There, under the glimmering light of sorrow, both past and present collided, leaving all of us standing perilously on the edge of Liam's truth, waiting to see what would unravel next. The silence after Claudia's initial glimpse of the first sketch felt permeable, almost liquid. In that stillness I could feel hearts collectively beating, echoing the rhythm of unease that wrapped around us like a thick fog. Each stroke of Liam's pencil laid bare new layers of his psyche, raw emotions that had previously only hinted at themselves in our conversations. Claudia's eyes morphed from curiosity to a blend of sorrow and recognition that tethered me to my own grief. This wasn't merely art. It was a gateway into Liam's internal landscape, a place where shadows transformed into indelible images of longing and loneliness. With trembling fingers she brushed over the lines, the corners of her mouth twitching as if the memories of his childhood laughter danced vividly behind her eyes. She swallowed hard, and in that moment, I witnessed the collapse of the fortress shed built around her heart. I never knew, she choked, her voice breaking the brittle silence. I thought I lost him to the world, but maybe I lost him to me. A soft sigh escaped Grace, her fierce protectiveness tempered by empathy as she stepped closer. You were not at fault, Claudia. We all had a part in how this played out. That doesn't make it any easier to carry, Claudia replied, glancing up. Her voice wavered but held a strange, steady determination, eyes glistening with fresh tears. She gestured toward the next sketch, but her gaze remained distant, lost to the weight of realizations unraveling like thread from a frayed fabric. Look, I gently prodded, motioning at the page. Liam poured himself into these. He wanted you to understand. He might have hidden from you, but he was always looking for connection. But as Claudia turned the page, her expression shifted. The vibrant strokes morphed into darker shades, the shadows creeping closer around the edges as if encroaching on the light. This wasn't merely art reflecting pain. It felt like an almost prophetic manifestation of his struggles with demons both within and beyond. Her breaths quickened, and I saw in her a restless turmoil, feelings cascading like waves threatening to drown her. I exchanged glances with Grace and Ethan, sharing the horror of what we were bearing witness to. These were his letters to the world, I thought. But they were also letters to her. For a moment she appeared frozen, unable to process the weight of grief mixed with guilt that now threatened to engulf her. I should never have let him feel he had to go through this alone, she stammered, her voice catching in her throat, but a spark of something more powerful began to emerge. Maybe I was always too focused on myself, always thinking of my pain, not recognizing his. In those fragmented words, a glimmer of hope ignited within me. I hoped this could be a turning point, a moment of awakening that could rewrite the narrative of their estrangement. But as Claudia reached for the final sketch in the envelope, shadows of doubt leapt ahead. What if this pushes her further away? Ethan whispered apprehensively, as he clasped my hand for support, sensing my chaotic thoughts. What if it breaks her instead of mending it? Claudia's hand paused on the final page, and the air turned electric with the weight of the moment. She looked up. A sense of fierce vulnerability radiated from her as she met my gaze. I need to see it, she stated, resolve coloring her tone. I need to know all of it, even if it shatters me. I nodded, swallowing hard against what that could mean for us all. As she unfolded the last drawing, a collective gasp resonated between us. The image before her was haunting. Liam depicted himself trapped in a cage of his own making, his face a mask of anguish and longing for release. In a heartbeat, an avalanche of emotions washed over Claudia as she crumbled, tears of understanding streaming down her face. He was fighting so hard to break free, she whispered under her breath, but I never saw the bars he was building around himself. Before I could react, a sudden crashing sound echoed from the adjoining room, a stark interruption to the raw moment of truth unfolding. Startled, we turned toward the source of the chaos, hearts racing in synchronicity with our confusion. Did you hear that? Grace asked, panic knitting her brow. Maybe it's nothing, I proposed, but dread clawed at my insides. Or maybe someone else is here. Suddenly we heard muffled voices rising within the walls, an argument punctuated by frustrated shouts. Claudia, still reeling from the sketches, rushed to her feet, driven by an instinct I couldn't ignore. We need to check, she insisted, fear flickering in her eyes alongside determination. It might be someone else from Liam's life, someone who can help us understand what he was facing. With reluctance, I nodded in agreement, the urgency of the unforeseen danger eclipsing our previous moment of connection. As we moved toward the room from which the noise emanated, apprehension pooled in my stomach. With every step, that sense of hope I had clung to felt threatened by the unexpected arrival of new chaos, a chilling reminder that healing always came with its traps, ready to ensnare those unwary enough to stray into its embrace. And as the door swung creakingly open, revealing a shadowy figure standing amidst a swirling dust of secrets, I couldn't help but wonder if this presence would alter our already fragile paths yet again, and if this new voice would bear the power to either guide us to healing or lead us deeper into despair. The darkness of the room swallowed us momentarily, silhouettes shifting in the dim light like ghosts emerging from the haze. The figure standing before us shifted uncertainly, a mixture of defiance and vulnerability suffusing the air. I squinted, trying to make out the features in the murky gloom. "Who are you?" Claudia's voice trembled, laced with both curiosity and protectiveness. The protective walls she'd built began to reform around her, shielding her from the disruption we didn't understand. The figure stepped into the faint glow. It was a young woman, not much older than Liam had been. Her eyes stormy pools of hurt and desperation, mirroring the turmoil we had each been experiencing in our own journeys. "I'm Jess," she said, her voice hauntingly soft yet edged with urgency. I was Liam's friend." Silence enveloped us once more, heavy and accusatory. The names had been whispered between shadows, but the storm brewing in Jess' expression told us there was much more yet to unfold. "Friend?" Grace broke the stillness, her tone a mixture of disbelief and a need to protect the fragile connection growing in this room. "You mean after everything he went through, you think you could just call yourself a friend?" Jess flinched at Grace's words, the accusation slicing through her like a sharp blade. But instead of recoiling further, a flicker of compassion ignited within her. "I know what you're thinking, what you all must think of me. I should have been there for him, I had my own demons, but Liam, he never let anyone in. I failed him too." Claudia shifted, her gaze locked onto Jess, a web of emotions shimmering between them: recognition, pain, and an unspoken acknowledgement of shared grief. "You didn't know him either," she murmured, clutching the sketches to her chest, still stained with her own sorrow. "None of us did that. He opened up to me in ways he couldn't manage with others." Jess' voice wavered but held steadfast. "He trusted me. There were things he talked about, things that haunted him. But more than that, he was scared. He felt so alone." Ethan's hand tightened around mine, and I could see the silent questions swirling in his mind. Jess stepped closer, her expression earnest, the burden of untold stories weighing upon her lips. "I came to find him, but I was too late. And now I just want to help. I didn't know where else to turn, but you guys, you're holding his life in your hands. You have to know the truth." Claudia stepped forward, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest, though uncertainty clung stubbornly to the edges. "What truth?" she pressed, and in that moment something shifted within her, her brave vulnerability blooming like a fragile flower amidst thorny underbrush. Jess took a deep breath, and as she struggled to gather her thoughts, I caught the glimmer of pain dancing in her eyes. "There's more to these sketches," she began, glancing at the drawings strewn on the table behind us. Liam was capturing moments, fragments of memories, and each stroke wasn't just a cry for help. It was a map of his thoughts. He never wanted any of you to carry the weight of his pain. He felt responsible for your suffering. He thought he was the reason for your distance. It tore him apart inside. And with that revelation, we felt the emotional riptide sweep around us once again. As she spoke, I could see Claudia's fists clenched tighter, her heart likely racing at the implications of Jess' words. What weight must they bear, knowing their son had been so deeply troubled yet had felt he had to navigate his pain alone? But Jess continued, "There was also a light in him, something you all need to hear. There were moments of beauty he loved to hold on to, like how he felt alive during spring, and the way his laughter would fill a room when he spoke about his dreams." Claudia's lips trembled as her expression twisted, caught in a complicated dance of hope and despair. "Dreams?" "Yes," Jess affirmed, stepping closer, her urgency palpable. "He wanted to create a world where he could create art that connected people. A world where the shadows would retreat in the face of understanding." Ethan squeezed my hand tighter, and I felt the weight of each revelation like a tidal wave rushing through the room. "But that's what we're afraid of. That he thought he had to dream alone, and now those dreams feel so distant." Jess reached for Claudia, hesitating before pulling back. A silent struggle etched across her features. "The reason I came, Liam left something behind more than just sketches. He wanted to share his journey, and I believe he'd want all of you to know." A sudden weight of trepidation filled the air as I leaned forward, desperate for more clarity. "What do you mean?" Jess hesitated again, the trembling hands that held her burden wavering beneath the pressure of disbelief. "I mean, he recorded videos, messages, last sessions where he spoke openly about his pain, his art, and his love for all of you, and he sent them to me, intending that I would pass them along if something happened to him." Claudia staggered back, sinking against the wall as if the weight of the world pressed upon her too hard to bear. No, no, she whispered, a shiver of panic taking root. You can't be serious. He wouldn't have wanted that. He couldn't bear it. What if it's a record of his truth? I murmured, letting the gravity of those words sink in. What if it's everything we need to understand him fully and hold on to what's left? The walls of our fragility quaked with uncertainty, and Jess' gaze flickered nervously. I have the videos. They're in my bag, but if I show them to you, if you want to see, it might change everything you thought you knew about Heimerworth, how you see yourselves. For a moment, we stood at the precipice of a decision that could shatter even the strongest resolve built through tenuous connections. Claudia's eyes glistened with tears, filled with a desperate longing to understand, yet the fear of knowing threatened to shake her to her very core. Before anyone could respond, the room seemed to pulse with an electric tension. The weight of what lay ahead loomed larger than the shadows around us, and every breath I took held the tangible fear of what might come, both revelations and heartbreak swirling like a storm on the horizon. And just before I could muster the courage to speak up, to navigate us through this turbulent moment, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. The screen lit up, displaying a name I hadn't seen in ages, a name that sent shockwaves through every fiber of my being. A name that could unravel all the threads we had begun to weave back together. Turning, I glanced at Claudia, Grace, Ethan, and Jess, struggling to formulate the words while the chorus of my heart screamed in disbelief. Then the sudden realization crashed into place. The past was far from settled, and the ghosts of our own stories were ready to resurface, ones we had fought so hard to keep buried. Guys, it's my mother, I whispered, trembling from the implications of those words as all eyes turned toward me, the weight of the world colliding in a horrifying crescendo. The tension crackled sharply in the air, a fragile thing caught between anticipation and fear. I felt the weight of my mother's name hanging between us like an unwelcome specter, each syllable slapping back at decades of silence and hurt. Against the fragile backdrop of revelations about Liam, this felt like an electrified blade, poised to dissect the new-knit bonds of our gathering. Your mother? Claudia's voice was soft yet heavy with the unspoken histories she sensed our family held. She looked at me, eyes wide, searching for the ground beneath her own doubts and grief. I nodded, feeling an ache in my chest deepen. She left when I was 12, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. We never really spoke again. It became easier to think of her as just a ghost, a shadow. I thought I had let it go. But the past doesn't allow itself to be forgotten, Jess murmured, stepping back slightly, feeling the shift in energy. I could see discernible worry knitting her brows. The urgency of Liam's story had distracted her, casting shadows over her own fractured history with him. Do you want me to leave? She asked suddenly, her voice trembling fractionally. I came here seeking to help. That's Allie didn't want to bring more turmoil. Please, if you'd rather I not intrude, I should know, I interrupted fiercely, feeling a sudden protectiveness towards her. Our shared connection through Liam binding us together. You need to be here. We need to hear everything you have to say. Regret mingled with something deeper within my heart, something I didn't yet understand, the realization that everyone in this dim room was drawing closer to the fragile edges of our shared experience. Claudia sighed, bracing herself against the wall, face pale. We can't keep picking at wounds without knowing just what we might uncover. And now her voice cracked. Now we might have to tackle it all at once. The clock on the wall ticked unceremoniously, reminding me that no matter how much I wished to stay entrenched in the past, the present was here, creeping in relentlessly. My phone buzzed again, and I realized I had simply forgotten to respond to my mother's call that had jolted all our lives like a match struck to dry grass. Taking a deep breath, I reached for my phone. Soon as I pressed to view the message, a haunting stillness enveloped the room, every breath stuttering momentarily. I steeled myself to read her words, but what filled the screen was something more staggering than I had anticipated. 3 words that sent a tremor through me. We need to talk. Is she coming back? Ethan asked, his voice laden with a mix of horror and concern. I don't know, I replied, wavering. But something tells me she's not just reaching out because she's had a moment of clarity or remorse. The weight of my words fell like a dark fog. What did she want? The questions piled up like stones in my stomach, heavy and unyielding. Claudia shot a glance at the floor, grappling with her own latent thoughts. And what if she seeks to take everything from you? It wouldn't change Liam's legacy, I rushed to assure them. It wouldn't change the truth or the art he left behind, but What if she has something to do with his death? Grace interjected, her voice low but cutting. What if all along she's been part of the reason he felt so alone? Jess recoiled from the sudden ferocity of Grace's question, her face pale in the dim light. You can't think it's true. That has to be impossibility, she said, shaking her head, searching for some glimmer of assurance among us. I could feel the seeds of doubt, uncertainty clawing at my heart, but what was more troubling was the voice that echoed in my head, that little whisper warning me that the truth could be far more complicated, tangled in layers more elusive than I wanted to confront. Deep down, I could sense the need to prepare myself for whatever convoluted web might stretch out before us. Maybe she knows something, I uttered, both a question and a statement of grim acceptance. Maybe all of us need to face whatever she brings with her. We can't turn back now. With a sky of secrets now swirling around us like shadows, it was Jess who stepped toward me, offering the smallest glimmer of hope through aching eyes, the soft touch of solidarity offered unreservedly. You shouldn't have to do this alone. Whatever it is, we'll face it together. The urgency of the unknown pressed on us, weighing down like a storm cloud ready to burst, but amid the swirling chaos of our truth stood moments reminiscent of life creeping in. Just the smallest gesture, a hand reaching out, a steady gaze unwavering, a promise unspoken. Yet as I prepared to type a response to my mother, a greater idea, a chilling suspicion fluttered in the fragile bubble of silence that had enveloped us. What if Liam's untold story and my mother's return bridged a darkness threatening to eclipse everything I thought was rightfully mine? Every heart in the room beat heavily, unhallowed and noble, and mingled within those bloodstrings was a deeper, darker legacy than any of us had foreseen. As I raised my trembling fingers to the screen, something pulled deep within me, an instinct that primal corners of connection were beginning to unfurl slowly in all this chaos. I exhaled sharply, ready to plunge into whatever awaited me. But just before tapping send, darkness draped down again as Jess' phone buzzed. We all turned toward her expectantly, the uncertain gloom shifting with the possibilities surging forward once more. Fingers grasping at shadows, her face paled further as she read the screen with dawning disbelief. What? She murmured, and even as uncertainty radiated through us, something cold pinched my gut. What is it? I prodded, an ominous chill crawling up my spine. Finally, Jess lifted her gaze, trembling and alive with fear, and uttered the words that shattered every quiet moment into those jagged shards of reality. It's a message from Liam's account. It says, "Find me before they do." The air between us froze, and a rush of realization swept through the room, an unmistakable awareness that we were hurtling towards truths we had never been prepared to confront. The future turned bleak, uncertainty evolving into pressing dread, and suddenly, the weight of destiny bore down upon us all, far more than just a legacy that lingered in the dim light. Even as Jess's chilling words echoed in my mind, the sense of disbelief spiraled into a deepening unease. We stood there, words hanging like unspent fireworks, the type that promised to burst into chaos and confusion any moment now. My heart raced as the urgency of Liam's accursed message sank in, intertwining with my own reality, confronting a past I thought I had escaped but was now knocking relentlessly at the door. What do you think it means? Claudia asked, her voice trembling as she cast glances from Jess to me, as if one of us held the answer to unravel the knot of dread that had tightened in our throats. Before I could gather my thoughts, Jess shook her head slowly, her expression haunted. I don't know, but it suggests something is coming, something we may not be able to prevent, and no one can find anything if we don't start digging, Ethan replied, his brows knitting together in determination. We have to figure out what this means. Where do we even begin? Start with the truth, I breathed, though the weight of every word felt heavier than I intended. I took a step back and faced them, wondering what treasures and traps awaited us. Jess, stuttering slightly, added, what if Liam left something for us? Some sort of clue to unravel this mystery. The flicker of hope ignited in her gaze, but I didn't share it. I couldn't afford to lean on uncertainty. Claudia interjected cautiously, but if your mother returns seeking to claim whatever is left, wouldn't that complicate things further? We can't ignore her role in this. My heart sank, the brunt of her statement crashing into my consciousness like a rogue wave. That's why I need to respond to her, I affirmed, even as fear clawed at my resolve. I need to find out what she knows. I can't let her dictate this for me or for Liam's legacy. The tension was palpable, each of us burdened with uncountable threads of the past tugging at our hearts. I could feel the resolve swirling with the edges of panic, and the tightly knitted concern binding my soul to those around me. With shaking hands, I typed a careful response to my mother. "What do you want? What do you know about Liam?" I hesitated before hitting send, the immensity of the moment washing over me like a tide I couldn't fight. "Maybe we should plan to meet her?" Grace suggested, her voice steadying as she supported the notion. "We'll need to hear her side and judge for ourselves. Who knows, she might have the answers that could unravel this whole mess." I hated the thought of confronting her, yet the threads of obligation towards Liam urged me onward, and there was a tiny part of me craving a sense of closure for the child that lingered within. The weight of my past needed confrontation, and perhaps my mother was the key, whether I wanted to admit it or not. Suddenly, Ethan's phone buzzed too, the sound slicing through the thick tension in the room. His face went pale as he read a message, and my heart raced as he turned to us again, a harried expression clouding his features. "What now?" I asked, dread mixing with incredulity. He swallowed hard, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's from a private number, it says. I know what happened to Liam. Meet me at the old pharmacy. Tonight." In a flash, the room spiraled into chaos. Who was this new player? What did they know? A frayed thread, dark and foreboding, was weaving deeper into my life, tugging at the corners of everything I loved and hoped to protect. "Oh, we go?" Claudia's voice trembled, but her eyes glimmered with resolve as if this moment held a power that could alter our fates forever. "We have to," I replied, each word heavy but determined. "Every piece of the puzzle leads us closer to whatever buried truth we can uncover. We can't afford to turn back now." Steeling myself against the torrent of doubt, I looked at Jess, whose eyes were wide, brimming with equal parts fear and strength. "Are you with me?" I asked quietly, feeling the profound weight of connection, yet again the entwining of souls amidst chaos. Her nod was instant, a pact sealing our defiance against the storm waiting just outside. Around us the essence of lingering uncertainty hummed, punctuated by the urgency to seek answers, to dissolve the shadows that had locked Liam's legacy within a dark veil. As we gathered our resolve and prepared to face whatever lay in wait, a sudden realization barreled through meth timing of my mother's return, the messages unearthing from Liam's past, and now this unknown warning like intricate threads, tightly woven into the fabric of a destiny I had never asked for. In the midst of this whirlwind, I couldn't shake the nagging anticipation that tonight might unveil truths distantly blurred, not just about Liam but also about my mother. And in the face of chaos, hope flickered, tethered to the belief that every hidden story still had the potential to illuminate the way forward. Yet as we headed toward the door, the feeling of foreboding loomed. I couldn't shake the dread that perhaps this next encounter would hold a revelation far darker than the shadows we were already facing. And what if, just what if, the darkness was drawn to vulnerability, waiting to spill forth like secrets from an unlocked vault? "Ready?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with determination but tinged with uncertainty. I nodded, tightly gripping my emotions and my purpose. "Let's find the answers before they find us." And as we stepped into the night, the uncertainty of our journey kissed the air, nervous with haunting possibilities, murderous intentions, and a vague reminder of what lay buried beneath our histories, waiting to ensnare us when we least expected. The chill of the evening air wrapped around us as we stepped out into the uncertain world beyond, the shadows stretching long and foreboding. Each step toward the old pharmacy felt like crossing the doorstep into a murky abyss, the weight of our combined fears pressing down as if the very ground beneath our feet sought to pull us back. "So, how do we know this is even legit?" Claudia asked, her eyes darting to the edges of the darkened streets, scanning for any sign of danger or deceit. "I mean, we don't," Ethan admitted, rubbing the back of his neck. "But we also can't afford to ignore the potential for information not about Liam, not about anything." I appreciated Ethan's conviction, but the gnawing fear of the unknown unfurled in my chest, tightening its grip. We were chasing shadows, following breadcrumbs left by ghosts. What if we opened doors that were never meant to be touched? As we approached the pharmacy, its neon lights flickering with a ghostly hunger, I felt the memories of years past washing over me. The faint smell of antiseptic mingled with the stale air inside, echoing with laughter and arguments that seemed to belong to another lifetime. This was the place where I had once bought candy on summer afternoons, unaware of the storms brewing just beneath the surface of our lives. "Now what?" Jess whispered, her voice quaking as we hesitated just outside. She looked fragile, encased in the unsettling layer of uncertainty enveloping us all. I longed to comfort her, but deep down, I knew that a dark layer of truth could carefully unravel everything we held dear. As if reading my mind, Ethan stepped forward. "Let's go in together," he said resolutely. "No one gets isolated tonight." His words were a tentative lifeline, and I grasped it fiercely as we crossed the threshold into the dimly lit room. The air felt thick, laden with the weight of secrets held within the delicate walls that had seen more than they let on. A figure stood at the counter, cloaked in shadows. My heart raced. Could this be the one who had summoned us? The uncertainty was suffocating. I glanced back at my friends, hoping we shared the same silent determination to face whatever awaited. "Are you?" I began, the question lingering on my lips like a promise ready to break. "That I am," the figure replied, their voice deep, textured, and almost melodic. "And I have something crucial to share about Liam." This was it. The chance to peel back layers of history long buried. A step toward confronting the truth. Yet as I took a careful step closer, an unexpected pulse of recognition coursed through me. Something in the way the stranger held themselves, the familiarity hidden in their posture, sparked a flame of remembrance, casting warmth into the frigid air surrounding us. "Who are you?" I asked, although fear shadowed my thoughts. Could this be a cruel game? The figure stepped forward into the light, and my breath caught in my throat. It was a face I knew well, yet hadn't seen in years, a reflection from another time, another place that was supposed to be just a memory. "What's impossible?" I murmured, my voice shaky and unsure, realization dawning like a slow sunrise but with a storm brewing beneath it. "It's a family matter," the stranger said, an enigmatic smile dancing at the corners of their lips. "And it involves more than you think. Liam, he never revealed the truth, and it impacted us all in the blink of an eye." That hidden history I had hoped to ignore suddenly crashed the party, leaving me grappling with tangled emotions. I looked around at my friends, assessing reactions, searching for anchors in this tempest. Their faces mirrored my own confusion and fear. "Why now?" I pressed, urgency making my tone sharper. "You couldn't have just called or messaged." A shadow flickered across the stranger's face. "Some truths can only be spoken in person." After all this time, I knew it would take a confrontation of sorts to bring it all back. It had to be you that gathered this group, or it wouldn't have the weight needed to push through the walls that have kept us apart. "Why should we trust you?" Jess interjected, her voice wavering yet resolute. "Trust is a fragile thing, and the threads of our lives have been stretched thin." With a tilt of their head, the stranger exhaled deeply. "Because for better or worse, I'm the keeper of Liam's true legacy, and it's your right to know everything about it whether you want to or not." The room seemed to close in around us as the weight of that statement settled heavily, like a stone on our collective heart. The promises I had clung to, the security of knowing Liam's world, now lay open and exposed. "It's time to face the past," they continued, their voice a measured whisper now, "before it consumes the present completely. You can't hide from what you are destined to unearth. No matter how hard you tried." A shiver traveled down my spine. The past was not just a collection of memories, it was waiting to swallow us whole in one final heart-wrenching embrace. I felt every tether binding me to this moment coiling tighter, leaving me breathless with the escalation of confusion. Whatever truths lay ahead, they would not be easy to bear. I sensed that each revelation would require sacrifice, and what awaited in that labyrinth of family ties was still deeply buried and shrouded in mystery. "Tonight will change everything," I whispered, a tumult of emotions churning within me. Ethan grabbed my arm, grounding me as we prepared to face not just the stranger and their revelations but our own weighty histories. The night was far from over, and with it came the looming potential for devastation. And then, unexpectedly, one last twist struck like a bolt of lightning unraveling in the sky. The stranger glanced at a clock on the wall, urgency palpable in their movements. "They're coming," they warned, eyes wide now with fear. "And if you're not careful, you might regret losing what little time remains." And that moment, terror clashed with hope, and every one of us felt the rush of impending danger drawing closer, from both the shadows that threatened to engulf us and the revelations waiting just beneath the surface. The small pharmacy trembled with an intensity that reverberated through the silence, and for the first time, I could feel trepidation coursing through the veins of everyone present. I had stepped into a storm, dragged back to confront the very history I thought I had buried, the secrets, the pain, and most importantly Liam's connection to it all. "What do you mean they're coming?" I asked, fear pricking at my consciousness. The stranger's gaze darted toward the door, the edges of their expression sharper now, more defined by urgency. You don't have much time. There are people who want to keep these shadows concealed, your mother among them. My heart sank, fear weaving its way through each word. The last vestiges of hope that had tethered me bravely to this moment seemed to spiral downward, as the weight of uncertainty painted the walls in shades of dread. Claudia trembled beside me, her breathing resonating with the instinct that had been honed by years of grief and regret. What does she want? Her voice was raw, gripped tightly by desperation. I could see the resolve breaking and reforming, flickering like the dying embers of a once vibrant flame. To claim what's left of him, the stranger answered, their voice threading through the unsteady air like a lifeline. Liam's legacy, his truth lies in these drawings and recordings, but it goes beyond that. There is more that she fears you all might uncover. What other secrets could there possibly be? I pressed, my voice shaky yet fervent. What other wrongs must we confront? The truth about his death, the stranger replied, their quiet intensity electrifying the air. The truth about everything he was hiding, including the pain of his family ties. The walls seemed to stretch around me, inviting memories both painful and beautiful. My heart beat like a drum, echoing through the tides of fear rising within. You have to choose, they continued, closing the space between us with tenacity. You can either remain here, bound by your fears, or you can face the truth that connects not just him but all of you. It's your choice. I took a deep breath, a sense of clarity washing over me. For the first time, the shadows felt less like adversaries and more like the foundation of an unknown truth, the bomb that could both salve or tear us apart. I shared a glance with Ethan, then with Jess and Claudia as the gravity of our collective narratives tightened around us. Let's confront whatever lies ahead, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling within. We owe it to Liam and ourselves not to turn back now. They'll come for you, the stranger cautioned, their tone almost somber, yet threaded with an odd sense of hope. But if you are united, you will have the strength to withstand anything. Move quickly. In that moment, the fire ignited within all of us, not just the desire to seek the truth, but the bond forged through our shared grief and love for Liam. Together, we could face the shadows threatening to consume our lives. The stranger gestured toward the back of the pharmacy, leading the way through cluttered aisles lined with haunting familiarity. My mind swirled with urgency. Each footstep resonated with the promise of answers while still grappling with fears unspoken. And then, just as we reached the door at the back of the pharmacy, a familiar voice sliced through the air, low and dangerous. I know you're in there. My body froze, pulse quickening as if the shadows had risen to confront us head-on. Claudia's eyes widened, terror dancing behind them. It's her, she whispered tremulously. I turned toward the group, urgency snapping against my skin like static electricity. We have to move. Stick close. We forged forward, adrenaline coursing through our veins, a chance at the truth igniting our fear. Sliding through the door, we emerged into an empty alley illuminated only by the flickering light from the pharmacy's back window. The world beyond felt heavy and menacing, yet somewhere deep inside, the unity we forged a bond like a delicate thread swaying to the rhythm of our hearts pulsed with undeniable strength. What do we do now? Jess asked, glancing from me to the others, the weight of our crossroads pushing on us like shrouded fog. I looked back at the pharmacy door that now felt like both a sanctuary and a prison. The looming uncertainty of facing my mother, of unraveling Liam's legacy, felt unbearable yet necessary. We have to get to the gallery, I stated, my voice strong yet bleeding beneath the surface with buried emotion. If Liam left anything there, his video messages, the truth behind his pain, it's our last chance to understand. It's where we will find what connects us. And what if the shadows follow us? Ethan pressed, and I understood his fear, the weight of our decisions cresting a formidable wave ahead. Then we'll face them together, I said resolutely, locking eyes with each of them in turn, reconfirming our bond. We've come this far. We cannot back down now. Together we moved forward into the dimly lit streets that stretched out before us, breathing in the anticipation of what could unfold, an unwavering hope blooming brightly in a world shrouded in darkness. The alley grew quieter as we stepped into the brightness of the main street, our thoughts ignited by uncertainty, but threaded with potential. We glided through the nightscape, shadows lurking at the edges of our vision, ready to pounce. Distant sirens echoed like a prophetic choir, tugging at our nerves yet urging us onward. As we neared the gallery, the anger radiating from my mother's words still hung in the air, sharp and relentless. It fueled my fire. I felt Liam close, resonating in every heartbeat, urging me to peel back the layers, to confront everything buried deep. Remember why we're doing this, I reminded them, drawing strength from the promise of each gathered heartbeat around me. This journey is bigger than each of us, it's for him. As we pushed forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that our arrival at the gallery might reveal something beyond just the art. Something essential would surface in the moments we pieced together. The weight of history's colliding, me own, my mother's, Liam saw intersecting at this single point in time. The gallery loomed ahead, both a sanctuary and an open book, waiting to reveal its truth, the canvas upon which so many hidden stories resided, unpainted yet glimmering with life. Each step echoed with the promise of confrontation, long-buried secrets threatening to break the surface. This is it, I murmured, our hearts synchronizing in uncertain rhythm. Here we'll find the truth that holds us all together, no matter how painful. And as we pushed through the gallery doors, the air felt thick with anticipation and the bitter tang of secrets. I dared to hope that within the chaos, we might discover the hidden mosaic of love, loss, and understanding forged amid the flames of hurt. The moment we crossed the threshold, a wave of emotion swirled around us, a mixture of exhilarating hope and suffocating dread. It was a space that held echoes of laughter, fleeting moments of brilliance, and dark corners where shadows could fester if left unexamined. Where do we start? Jess whispered, her eyes scanning the vivid walls, each artwork a fragment of Liam's soul, and the potential for truth unanswered. We start with the pieces that lie bare before you. And on that wall, I nodded toward a solitary space, a blank canvas that beckoned with haunting familiarity. Its emptiness felt charged, the hollow silence pulsing with questions yet unanswered. It's the legacy he left behind. Each moment felt heavy with repercussions as we stood on the precipice of revelation, every piece encased in uncertainty. This was his truth, Ethan murmured, stepping to my side, eyes locked on the emptiness that held no claim yet spoke volumes. This is where we confront what lies beneath. We have to flip that canvas over, Claudia urged, the tension in her voice palpable as she nudged toward the back area of the gallery where Liam had worked tirelessly. My heart raced in agreement. It felt significant, an impending turning point awaiting discovery. With hasty determination we moved deeper into the gallery. As we gathered around the unassuming wall, I felt the collective heartbeat of our curiosities igniting. Had once been hidden in darkness now yearned for the light of understanding. With trembling hands I reached out to flip the canvas, forcing open the door to an uncharted realm of raw power awaiting its unveiling. The turning of that canvas could unveil more than just Liam's art, it could extract everything intertwined in our shared legacies. My breath hitched as I pulled the canvas down, and our eyes collectively widened in horror and disbelief. The surface exploded into a kaleidoscope of fragments that illuminated not just Liam's artistry but raw, unfiltered emotions. Vivid colors burst forth, swirling angrily against darker shades. Something was being expressed that stretched beyond art. It breathed agony and liberation all at once. Oh my God, Jess gasped, taking a step back. He poured everything into this. My heart raced as I studied the tumultuous surface, the tender strokes that captured not only his struggles, but the light he so desperately sought to find in all the darkness that threatened to consume him. The artwork revealed something deeper, a narrative exposed beneath the surface, truth waiting to connect and reshape our own lives. I swallowed hard, steps heavy as I felt the magnitude of our discovery thrumming in my veins. And in that moment, the air trembled with the realization Liam had left a legacy far greater than we could have imagined, one rooted in connection and heartbreak entwined with our very souls. As everything we longed for hovered just out of reach, inviting us to confront the truth and revealing the essential heartbeat of who we were, I could sense our fears retreating in the face of something extraordinary. This isn't just art, it's a prophecy, I whispered, the power of his unexpressed pain igniting our voices. It wasn't simply an artwork. It felt like a compass guiding us through the labyrinth of our shared narratives, reinforcing the connections we still could nurture, still could heal. Can you feel it? Claudia breathed, her eyes shimmering with awe. He was begging us to understand there was beauty amid the chaos. As I stared at the canvas, the shadows of Liam's doubts, dreams, and desires intertwined, I realized the work wasn't complete. It existed singularly as an invitation, demanding us to take it further to honor the legacy that lay before us. We must finish this, complete it for him, Ethan declared, his voice steady with purpose as a wave of renewed determination washed over us. All of us must work on this together. We can bring it to Lafito show what he couldn't. And as I stood surrounded by my chosen family, the tapestry of emotions swirling around us, I could feel the shadows of the past dissipating into the dawn of possibilities yet to come. The old pharmacy, my mother, Liam's untold struggles, they'd brought us here, weaving a treasure bigger than resentment, a legacy to mend, to cradle, to give birth to hope amid despair. In that moment, every heartbeat echoed with a gentle reminder I was not alone in this. We were all entwined in the story as the canvas beckoned us to respond to the profound legacy left behind. And finally, as a realization bloomed, I knew this wasn't merely about pain. It was about love and resurrect Iona, chance to reunite long-lost fragments of our lives to create something breathtaking. And as I looked around, I whispered, it's time for us to share his truth. In the light of that revelation, I found freedom amid the dark, knowing that together we could weave a future that celebrated our whispered scars. So we stepped forward into that radiant unknown, ready to bind even the darkest moments into luminous legacy, for Liam, and finally for ourselves. It was more than just hope, it was our unwavering promise to honor those silenced stories, all of them urgently, beautifully, and profoundly.